Hey, what's up, everybody? You downloaded the Go Home edition of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo, and this is episode 16. This week, I'm going to get into this past week's Raw and SmackDown Live. I'm also going to give you guys my predictions for this weekend's NXT Takeover Toronto and SummerSlam. Also going to give you guys my MVPs of the week and floppers of the week. But before we get into all that, I want to thank everybody that's been going over to our YouTube page. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also get in contact with this podcast. We are available on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle, and you can find this page also on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. And this episode is sponsored by Anchor. Download the Anchor app today to start your podcast and have it distributed everywhere. It is available for iOS and Google. Download the Anchor app and get started today. Alright guys, so episode 14, I mentioned that Roman Reigns made it to my MVPs list at the end of the show, and because I was really enjoying the segments of Roman Reigns coming out there, no nonsense, let's get job done, and let's put on a fight and get in and get out. I feel like as soon as I said that, we started getting these Roman Reigns scenes that really haven't been up to par with the rest of the show or expectation, now knowing that Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are running things on Raw. And don't get me wrong, that the scenes that we've been getting from Roman, from where we saw the forklift scene and having all that come down on him, and then this past week on Monday Night Raw, we saw Roman Reigns nearly hit by a car. He didn't get hit by a car, nearly did. Like I said, the scenes they're interesting, and it is a little bit cool that WWE is going in this direction, because we haven't seen anything like this before. I mean, anything close to this is like the Braun Strowman segments in the past. But I mean, those are just really more like feat of strength and stuff like that. But this is really more, there's a story entwined into who is attacking Roman Reigns. I also got to be honest, is that these scenes really haven't been, doing it for me. And they were doing it for me when Roman Reigns was just coming out and, taking care of business. And as seen from the scene this past week on Raw, those two scenes particular maybe even be costing Roman Reigns and anyone or wherever this is going, because the execution isn't being met and isn't being done well to a point that it's going to keep you intrigued, because once again that WWE is up to something, and that's the one thing that takes you out of it. And I really like that they're really making an effort to bring more of a realistic feel to the show with these two scenes, but it's overproduced and overproduction with it. So I think that's one thing that I take back from these two scenes and from Roman Reigns. But it was very interesting, as this week we actually found out who is behind these attacks. The ending of SmackDown Live this week was really interesting, because Roman Reigns barged into the locker room and he asked everybody to get out except for one, Buddy Murphy. And this was really, really interesting, because at the end of last week's episode, I spoke in depth about the possibilities of Buddy Murphy making his debut and his first opponent being Roman Reigns. And I really said that it would be really interesting for Buddy Murphy's first feud and making it to the main roster to be against the franchise, the top guy, the top dog in the company. And I thought it would be a really good move to bring him in, because he's a tremendous athlete. And if you're going to showcase him right off the bat, who he is to the world, then you put him in there with Roman Reigns and he's going to get over. I mean, trust me, after a rivalry with Roman Reigns, you're kind of set. It's really up to you and how the audience takes you. But I think Buddy Murphy would be a great guy that you want to showcase, especially since he's someone that, there's potential in there for the future. And this is, possible future world champion at best. So it was really interesting to see Roman Reigns get in the face of a young Buddy Murphy who, in the eyes of the mainstream or main roster audience, is a rookie. And we have yet to see his actual debut. We saw him in that, town hall they had a few weeks back, but, just a one-liner, two-liner really doesn't do it for us. I mean, you don't stick in people's mind just from cutting a promo backstage or just like a one-liner like he did. It's from being in a feud or being in a moment like this one with Roman Reigns. And it was really interesting. So Roman Reigns asked the question again if he knows who did it. And Buddy Murphy, man, it's just a great character right through the screen. He told Roman Reigns that it's not him and he doesn't know who it is. But if he did, he wouldn't tell him, which then, ticked off the big dog. He laid in a good punch on Buddy Murphy, put him against the wall, and finally got Buddy Murphy to spill the beans on who did it. And it wasn't Daniel Bryan, it was Rowan. And also on last week's podcast, I did go in depth on the possibility of going back to a Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns match, and this time actually going through with a full feud. And I think this would be great. I mentioned that Daniel Bryan being Roman Reigns' opponent was the career move that Daniel Bryan was going to make, because it would solidify him as a heel, not just save the planet Daniel Bryan type of heel, because in some aspects there's some good intentions to that. I think it's just who he was going up against really made him the heel in the match. But now Daniel Bryan, if he's the one behind these senseless acts of criminal activity going on television, I mean, almost like it's, what is it, near manslaughter attempt to kill Roman Reigns twice. If he's the one behind it, then yes, this would definitely make Daniel Bryan the top heel, if not the most vicious heel in the company. And I like that, because good Daniel Bryan can always come back to that at some point, and it'll count a lot more when it does happen. You don't want to rush in a yes movement again because you want to sell some tickets or sell some shirts. Bryan and Rowan in this situation, this is really what makes it interesting, because Bryan's now got some heater to him, and he's got a guy in Rowan who can back him up. And of course, it's useful because you don't have to be on TV every week, and you don't have to wrestle every week, and might go a few months telling a program and might not even touch. So I like this, and with a character like Daniel Bryan, who, like I said, his character is so strong, he does not need physical action. I mean, he really hasn't been in the ring. I mean, he had a match last week, but you don't see him so often. But his character is so strong that he doesn't need to be in action. So this is very beneficial for Daniel Bryan and very beneficial to Roman Reigns, because you go up against a guy like Daniel Bryan, who is a mastermind both as a heel and a face, and now in this case with the added storyline that there's been attempts to kill Roman Reigns. It just makes the big dog a bigger babyface, and I like that. I like this, and I really like the face-to-face scene with Buddy Murphy, because he looked like a top guy. He looked like a guy that belongs, and that came through the camera. It's one takeaway that I really took away from that finishing sequence of SmackDown Live this week, is that Buddy Murphy looked like he held his own against the biggest guy in the company, Roman Reigns. So look, if a rivalry between Buddy Murphy doesn't come about from this, at least a match, because I think Buddy Murphy is not going to take being backed into a wall by Roman Reigns, and yet he hasn't made a debut. I think a match to tell a story in between here and Daniel Bryan, or even be one of Shane's guy, it doesn't matter. I just think that Buddy Murphy, if he makes his first in-ring debut on the main roster with Roman Reigns, would do amazing things for his career. So I really like this. And moving on to another match that was teased to us this week, and it could happen, could not, but was Dolph Ziggler. He was a guest this week on Miz TV, and it was to sign a contract for a match at SummerSlam. And Shawn Michaels was out there. I guess he's been, dragged into this storyline, so he's kind of like the middleman, peacemaker in between this whole thing, between Ziggler and The Miz. But this was the closing scene of Monday Night Raw. Ziggler got provoked by The Miz. This Miz likes to run his mouth. Signs the contract. This is where The Miz, he's so good at being a great character. Lets Dolph Ziggler know, I'll see you next Monday, which brought up everybody's like, what? What are you talking about Monday? I thought this was for SummerSlam. Right away, Michael steps up, and it's that, whoa, did Dolph Ziggler just sign a contract for a match at SummerSlam versus the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels? I mean, yes, I wanted to see this. I was just like glued to the TV thinking, this is happening. But if you've really kept up with what's been going on backstage, and if you're listening really to the details of Dolph Ziggler's verbiage in the past weeks, you might have saw this coming. But if you didn't, we saw the return of Bill Goldberg. Yes, Bill Goldberg, who had that match with The Undertaker at Saudi Arabia just about 2 months ago. Goldberg is the one who's going to be taking on Dolph Ziggler this Sunday at SummerSlam. A surprise to those, a surprise to many, but not to me. But man, what a teaser to give us that Heartbreak Kid and Dolph Ziggler match. I would have loved to seen it, but again, look, I think Michael's one comeback was the one comeback that we saw at Crown Jewel. Would love to see that match. We got Goldberg coming back this Sunday at SummerSlam, and this was a very kind of an eventful Monday, not so much. I mean, it was the go home week of Raw and SmackDown as we head into this weekend's Takeover and into SummerSlam, and I will be having the previews up to that, so stick around. But also, we had the Viking Raiders in action this week, and this is one thing. It's not a big no. They were up against two jobbers again. I've said it last week. If you're not going to put them up against real competition, talent that's signed by WWE, then it really doesn't do anything for the Viking Raiders. As a matter of fact, I think it's hurting them because there was no crowd reaction for the Viking Raiders this past week. And I don't think they're even getting a heel nor anything near a face or cheers. I think this is really damaging the Viking Raiders because if you see them coming out and you see that their two opponents are two jobber talents, you know that this is going to be a squash, which then now this is like your bathroom break. And this is your get up and go get some popcorn to go to the bathroom. And that's where I mean that it's hurting the Viking Raiders. And I said it not only just facing talent that's not in the WWE, but just enhancement talent. I mean, I would be very upset if I paid that much to go to WWE to not see top level talent. I mean, I'm not going there to see AEW. One tag team that they are doing something with this past week on Raw was the brand new women's tag team champions, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. They won a Fatal 4-Way tag team elimination match this past week on Raw, so kudos to them. I really think that they might be doing something with the titles now. We can only hope, but it is on Alexa Bliss, and she is a superstar that is featured heavily on WWE programming, so we'll just have to wait and see what they do with those titles. And moving on to another title that we'll wait and see where this goes is the 24/7 title. And I'm not saying that it was so much bad nor good this past week, but I think the 24/7 title is hitting a little bit of a wall. There's also a little bit of a trend that I've been noticing in the title. I mean, since the inception of this title, it's kind of been bouncing back and forth between some superstars, but it's a lot of paired superstars, and it really makes me think, is this what the title was intended for, or have they backed themselves up into a corner where we see R-Truth accompanied by Carmella, then we have Drake Maverick follow along with his wife Renee, and then now we have Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis. So you kind of see that this trend that the title is just linked to couple, but it is just, I'd like to see more than just the title that you have to be sneaky, sleep with one eye open, yada yada yada, and know about your whereabouts. I'd like to see this title at one point mean something, or it's got to start meaning something. Right now, it's the comedy segment of the show, but it's still a title, and I would like to think that a title still means something these days, which is why it could change into a more serious type of title. I've said it before that I would love to see Samoa Joe or Cesaro or Braun Strowman win the title, and then I would, especially Braun Strowman, and then I would like to see how many guys are going to be chasing Braun Strowman around. I mean, they're going to have to do it in a group, but I mean, like, who's going to really, like, step up to Braun Strowman? I mean, I can already see that playing out. Braun gets a win, and then, next guy comes up, and it's like, you think you're going to take this? And it's like, nope, I was just walking by. Yeah, it's something like that. Do that with, like, an EC3. You can do that with, like, a Drake Maverick. I mean, like, put the title on Samoa Joe, and, like, you'll get some real competition. And since it's going to be, like, 24/7, it's going to be anywhere. Instead of all this wacky roll-up bullshit, I mean, like, put it on Cesaro and, like, let's see a straight catch, match go on in the background, in the parking lot. Brawl it up. I mean, at some point, this title cannot just be about roll-ups and sneaking away and all that bullcrap. So that's one thing. Another thing that I would really like to see, and we got a little glimpse of it from this backstage scene on SmackDown Live, Chad Gable mixing it up with Elias. I really, really like this segment because I think that there's something brewing here with Chad Gable. And look, Chad Gable is one guy who I think his booking since coming up to the main roster hasn't been strong. I mean, he's kind of bounced around with some tag team partners and the storyline here and there, and then he's backstage just taking notes. He's on 205 Live having the best matches in the company, but no one notices. So him being featured here with Elias, I mean, it only means that they're going to have a match, which is great. And Chad Gable is an interesting character. I really think that right now WWE needs this underdog that you can believe and get behind. We haven't had someone like that in quite a while since like a Daniel Bryan. You get that in NXT with the Johnny Gargano, but I mean, I think it's time that we get someone that we can all get behind. That's a fighter, good guy, great promo, and someone like that's Chad Gable. And with the Olympic background, I do think that next year the Olympics are coming up, 2020, to have a guy on your roster that's a former Olympic competitor to be featured here on WWE television would be great. So I think there's something going on with Chad Gable's character. I also think there's something going on with his former partner, Shelton Benjamin. But we'll wait and see there. All right, guys, and now it is time to give you guys my NXT Takeover Toronto predictions. All right, guys, first match, it's Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. I gotta say, Candice LeRae really needs this win, and it's not because she's not on this win streak or pick up some wins along the way. It's she really needs this for me to really believe in her. I mean, I still don't know much about her other than that she's Johnny Gargano's wife and she's sidekick to whomever is a babyface. So I think she really needs to win. Io Shirai, with this new character and turning, over the sheet of becoming a heel, I really like her look and I like how she's presenting herself. She can take a loss here, but really Candice LeRae needs a win here. Moving on to a triple threat North American Championship on the line, Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. This is going to be probably the match that I'm looking forward to, maybe all weekend, but definitely of this show. These are, like I said before in past episode, I said that these three guys are my picks, as in like not just for NXT, but beyond NXT and well into their main roster careers. Velveteen Dream here defending against two guys that I believe can carry the North American Championship, but I think I'm going to go with Roderick Strong on this one. And I think if anybody needs a title reign, it's Strong. With Dreams had a great one. Dunn just had the longest United Kingdom title reign ever. Who knows if that will ever be broken. It was like 2 years long. So I think Roddy will pick up the win here and become North American champion. Street Profits versus the Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Street Profits on this one, the build up to this really has been more on just a couple backstage scenes and a little bit of promos. I mean, Street Profits are more featured on Raw this week than on NXT the past few weeks. So I'm going to go with Undisputed Era on the notion that Street Profits are moving up and Undisputed Era is staying strong down in NXT. So, Undisputed Era. NXT Women's Championship match. Shayna Baszler defends against Mia Yim. And I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler on this one. I like Mia Yim. She has great potential. I see her more as a heel. She's coming into this as underdog, babyface, going up against, a beast like Shayna Baszler. I would like to see her more in a heel role. I think her viciousness and how she can be with her words plays more of a heel. So I'm going to go with Baszler on this one. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, NXT Championships, 2 out of 3 falls, street fight, singles match, and William Regal will choose the last one. I'm thinking that the last one should be in a cage, but if there's going to be a cage hanging over the ring the entire night, then we all know that it's going to be a cage match. So it won't be a cage match. Really interesting to see what type of match it would be. But I'm going to go with Adam Cole on this one. I just think that it's going to be an Undisputed Era sweep for the night. And I think Johnny Gargano's NXT days may be coming to an end soon. I get this feeling that there might be waiting for Tommaso Ciampa to return and continue the Gargano, Ciampa, and Adam Cole or Undisputed Era storyline. But I do think if they don't go down that route, Johnny Gargano going over to the main roster, Ciampa coming back and him dealing with Cole, and then seeing Ciampa on the main roster in the future, I think that'd be really interesting, and I kind of see that that's where things might be going. So Adam Cole still will be your NXT champion. Like I said, it's going to be Undisputed Era sweep this Saturday. All right, and let's move forward on to the next day, 24 hours later, SummerSlam in Toronto. Cruiserweight Championship will be on the line as the champion Drew Gulak will defend against Oney Lorcan on this one. I haven't been watching 205 Live, but I mean, I am very familiar with Oney Lorcan on this one, and Drew Gulak and Lorcan should put on a good match, but I am going to go with Gulak on this one. I think Lorcan is, I think he's 205's underdog. He's going to have an opportunity to chase that title down the road. Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler, it's going to be a squash, so I'm going to go with Goldberg on this one. Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens, and if Shane McMahon wins, Kevin Owens will quit. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens on this one. I mean, the way that they've been playing this thing out, you got to have Kevin Owens go over with the way WWE's been booking him very strong as a babyface. Up next, we got WWE SmackDown Live's Women's Championship. Bayley defending against Ember Moon on this one. I'm going to go with Bayley on this one, and I get the feeling that they're turning Bayley heel. This is one of the things that I don't understand why WWE just can't have a face versus a face matchup. You gotta force the hand to turn one heel, and I don't like that because it may not be in the character's best interest at that moment to turn them heel for the sake of you gotta have a good guy, you gotta have a bad guy. And in this case, Ember Moon turning heel at this moment, although it would be great for her, I've said before, Ember Moon as a heel would be great. I mean, she doesn't have any friends really. She's kind of like mysterious. Some ways she's portrayed as some kind of like, demon or something else like that. So Ember as a heel, I think if they would have gone that route, would have been great, because I don't think Bayley as a heel right now, we saw it coming, and again, just for the sake of having Bayley play the heel to a babyface Ember Moon, just doesn't fit it. And since Bayley was the one that extended the challenge to Ember Moon, it really gave her this opportunity. It's more of I'll one up you, and if I can type of thing. So I don't need any more animosity other than I just want to beat you for the title. Up next, we got Bray Wyatt up against Finn Balor, and it's going to be interesting to see if we are going to see the Demon Finn Balor, because there was no notion or preview this week that we're getting the Demon. But this match is anticipating to see, it's going to be Bray Wyatt's first in-ring action on television in over a year. So, and also really interesting to see how this character is going to be portrayed now that it's going to, be in-ring action. We've seen him deliver Sister Abigail's and Mandible Claws in recent weeks, but not a full match. Go a little bit going over more than 5 minutes here. So I'm going to go with Bray Wyatt on this. It's no secret that Finn Balor has asked for some time off. Finn Balor is going to be going away for a couple months. Up next, here we got the showcase match of the night. Charlotte Flair taking on the hometown Toronto's own Trish Stratus. And look, this is a match that it's kind of taken some up and downs as more as in like the promo work. This past week's promo work from Charlotte Flair was just so well done. And Trish has been great. Man, when you got a pro and someone that's destined for greatness like Charlotte, I'm going to go with Charlotte on this one. Trish coming back and defeating Charlotte does nothing for Trish, and it absolutely does nothing for Charlotte, who you are building as a top. Yes, Trish Stratus is a great athlete, and yes, she's one of the greatest of all time. She's a Hall of Famer, but she's had her moment, and one more win coming out of retirement against Charlotte isn't going to do anything for Trish. So I think Charlotte wins here. If she picks up the loss, then again, it's just going to be, I'm still Charlotte Flair. I don't care. I'll go with Charlotte on this one. AJ Styles defending the United States Championship against Ricochet. I'm going to go with AJ Styles on this one. I don't think we've seen the last of AJ and Ricochet. The past few weeks, it's been more of AJ, Ricochet, and then the Club and Usos mixed in. Finally, we're about to get to see another match. They've had some good run-ins, when they go one-on-one, but this time it'll be on a pay-per-view in a stage like SummerSlam. But I still think AJ Styles is going to hold up the title, and maybe onto the next pay-per-view we'll see this diminish. Kofi Kingston defends his WWE Championship against Randy Orton, and this is definitely the most anticipated match of the entire card. And definitely for me, I am waiting for this match, and I can't wait to see this match because it is Kofi Kingston's biggest match of his career. And like I said, in a few weeks ago when they had their face-to-face promo, the tables are turned for Randy Orton at this time, because though Kofi Kingston is the WWE champion and Randy Orton is coming here as the challenger, Kofi's been on a roll since becoming the WWE champion. So will it hold up here against the Viper, the veteran Randy Orton? We'll see, but I really have a feeling that this run of Kofi Kingston come to an end will not be at SummerSlam. This is going to carry into the next month, and I think with them going into Madison Square Garden as their next go-home into the next pay-per-view, that these two are not going to be done following SummerSlam. Next match, we got Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch taking on another Canadian, Natalya. This match, look, it's been a little bit, again, up and down, build up. 1 week, it was really great when they had that in-ring promo, and then it's just kind of gone back into now tag team matches and just, verbiage backstage. Other than that, if you take all that away, I still believe that this will be a great match. It's Becky Lynch and it's Natalya, and a very high stakes match at SummerSlam. So I'm going to go with Becky on this one, only for the fact that I don't think Becky's run as champion also is ready to come to an end, just like Kofi's. But you know what? Maybe surprise. I mean, I'll go this way. If Trish wins, then Becky wins. Now, if Trish loses and Charlotte wins, then might go with Natalya. Look, I'm not going to downplay. I'd love to see Natalya win the championship here in her home country. It'd be a great moment for her. Great moment for the Hart family as she is representing the Harts. Becky is going to pick up the win here, and it's going to lead to something down the road. I think Natty's just been this transitional opponent for Becky heading into SummerSlam, and the fact that it is in Canada. So I think the whole Canadian thing plays into here. All right, and main event, the Beast, Brock Lesnar, defends the Universal Championship against Seth Rollins, and I'm going to go with Brock Lesnar on this one. Look, Seth Rollins' fall since becoming WWE Universal Champion at WrestleMania has been a fall, and I say that because yes, he had the coming after WrestleMania, and he worked the program with AJ Styles, and then he worked this long 2-month program with Baron Corbin that did nothing for him. Then they attached Becky Lynch to the storyline and integrated their real life relationship into their on TV relationship, and it just didn't do anything for Seth. I mean, he dropped the belt at WWE Money in the Bank, or was it Money in the Bank? Extreme Rules, excuse me. Now he is chasing for the title and coming up. And from the beating that he took last week, and then he took another one this week, which was just unnecessary. I mean, Seth Rollins has just been getting thrown around from Brock Lesnar since Lesnar's cashed in that Money in the Bank contract. This past weekend, I think Seth was supposed to make that heroic, I'm coming down with a chair and I'll see you this Sunday. But man, it didn't feel like a hero was coming down to save us all from the Beast. It really just seemed kind of like, you've lost, you took a beating, we kind of don't want to see you win it again. I think it's time to move on. And even that promo from Seth this past week on Raw after taking a beating, it just sounded so deflated. I mean, even down to that last line he said was almost comical. I guarantee it, just so like stoic and dumbfaced about the whole situation. And I mean, if I'm not getting, yes, he just took a beating from Brock Lesnar. I mean, he's not going to be in the best shape, but still, I just didn't feel it. I mean, this is supposed to be someone that's going to be going into SummerSlam to challenge the Beast and become the Universal Champion once again and take it back and show that he is the man. I just didn't feel it from Seth this week, and that's why I believe that Brock Lesnar will still be the Universal Champion come SummerSlam. All right, guys, and now it's time to give you guys my MVPs, my most valuable performers of the week, and my floppers of the week. But first, let's go with MVPs of the week. MVP of the week was definitely Rey Mysterio, Andrade, and Zelina Vega. This past week, that match was just so good. I mean, it just really made me feel like I was watching Nitro or, just good wrestling. It just made me feel like, okay, we're on to something. This is great. But then the show went on. But great action from those two. And, when you watch Andrade, he's one of those superstars that just really leaves you wanting more. Like, really a lot more. And we get these little glimpses that he's great. I think he's ready for something else and ready for more. And I'd like to see something going into towards the end of 2019, more of Andrade and being more brought up. I think he'd be a great opponent. If that title gets back on Seth Rollins, I think Andrade would be a perfect opponent for a babyface Seth Rollins. All right, my flopper of the week, and this is if you make it onto my flopper of the week list, you just didn't do it for me this week. And this week, Street Profits. I've been saying it in the past weeks as they made my list last week. Street Profits, floppers of the week, just not doing it for me. It's those Raw backstage segments. Once again, they had one this week. And even the promo they had this week with the Undisputed Era on NXT, it was just too corny, man. It's just too corny. And a little bit too playing with the crowd. And I get it, but you got to be a little bit bigger than that. You got to be more superstars. Too much pandering to the crowd. But who knows, with them going up against the Undisputed Era with their NXT Tag Team Championships on the line this weekend, if they drop the belts, it'd be interesting to see now how they will be utilized on Raw more than just being the narrator of the show. All right, guys, and what to watch for this week? I'm going to give you guys nothing to watch for this week because we got our weekend all lined up with NXT TakeOver Toronto and SummerSlam. Go ahead and watch that this weekend. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Speaking Wrestling. Be sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube. Go over to Instagram and find us at Speaking Wrestling, and over on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. Join me this weekend as I will be live tweeting. Go ahead and have a great weekend. Enjoy NXT TakeOver. Enjoy SummerSlam. We'll be back here next week to talk all about it. Bye-bye.